Hey everyone, my name is Utkarsh Raj Singh, and in this introduction course, we'll be making stylized realistic trees in SpeedTree and Unreal Engine 5. In this video course, we'll be focusing on the introduction and the basics of these two softwares without going into too much details. Alright, so we're going to start with a new blank project. Now the interface might be a bit intimidating at first, but you don't have to be scared. So to navigate, using the left mouse button you rotate, and using the middle mouse button you move around and pan. That's basically it. Now, SpeedTree is a node-based software, so we're going to be creating these trees using nodes. And the first node is the tree node on the top left corner in that box, yep. And the nodes move from left to right. So from root to the branches to the leaves, we go from left to right. Now, just below the nodes, we have the properties. Now, these are general properties for the whole tree, but if we click on the node, we have node-specific properties. Now, in the middle of the viewport is the tree node's radius or area. This will make more sense towards the end of the course, but for now, this is it. Now we can select between quads or triangles depending on our use case, VFX or games. For now, I'm going to be keeping them on triangles. Now to create a tree, we need to add more nodes after the tree node. You can either right-click the tree node and add the new nodes, or you can just press the add button at the top and add the required nodes. Now we will right-click the tree node and add a trunk. Now the height units are in feet, but you can change them to centimeters, meters, whatever, using the scene unit conversion. And you can change them whatever. I'll just leave it on feet. Now as you can see, the trunk node has been added to the tree node. And as we add more nodes, they're going to be added to the right side. And on and on and on and on. Now if you click on the trunk node, we can see all its properties on the left side. Now if you click on all, you might be a bit scared at first, but we don't have to use all of them at once. Also, since this is an introduction course, we're going to be taking a look at only a few of them. So the first are the generation properties. Now we're going to decide how many are being generated and where they're being generated. So since it's a trunk, we only need one, but you can have 3, 4, 5. You can change the rotation, you can change the positions, etc. But for now, this is good. Now the next are the spine properties. Now spine is like a spline or a curve behind the trunk. We control the length of it, how it's bending, how it's rotating, the position, that sort of thing. Now we can change the length of our trunk using the absolute value over here. Also, just a quick note about how nodes work. Every node on the right side of another node is a child of that node, and the left one is the parent. So in this case, the tree is the parent and the trunk is the child node. Now I'm making some small adjustments for my trunk as to how it should look. And yeah, the other properties we don't have to change either right now. So every node can be changed in about 3 modes: the generator mode, the node mode, and the freehand up on the top. Now if we select on the node mode, our trunk has just one node, so we can't do much now. But in the future, we can do it a lot for the other nodes. So we're going to go back to the generator mode, and we'll be seeing these icons. If we click them, you can see they're changing some values. Now, these values are corresponding to the values on the left side in the property. So you don't have to look at them, you can just change them as you go. These are really handy, and you're going to be using them a lot of time. And as you can see, we're on the skin properties where we can control the radius, the welding, and the spread. Now you can change the shape of the node, in this case the trunk, manually as well using the freehand mode, and the whole interface changes as well. Now, the white dot is like the origin, or the place from where you want the shape to be bent. And the big blue dot controls how much you want to do that. Now the small blue dot controls up to where the influence of the bend is. So you can basically see it. And by changing these things and changing the origin and moving it from the top, you can make a really interesting shape. So I'm just going to speed this part up, as you can make any shape you like, basically. And it's really interesting. Now that we've finished that, we can focus on some other things as well. Now, as you can see, the tree is not very smooth, so we're going to go to the segments properties and change the scaler. Yep, it's going to make it as smooth as possible. Now, since we're not focusing too much on the performance for this course, we're going to make it as smooth as possible. Now we can also see the wireframe by using the scribed view. And yeah, we have that. Perfect. And you can also change the radial value to increase the details around the radius, right from the properties panel. But for now, I think we're good. And now we're going to right click the trunk and add a branch. Now we're going to go to the generation properties and select which mode of generation do we want. Now, I'm not going to explain all of these generation properties, otherwise the video is going to be extremely long. But I will share the official SpeedTree documentation where they've explained every single mode. Now, the first basically changes what's the first point from where the generation takes place. And the last, obviously the last. So now we can change a lot of values with this and get really different results. So, for example, we can change the size scaler to make it smaller. And we can also change the value of the sweeping, so it sweeps around the parent, and the jumble values, the roll value. So you can get really nice and interesting results by changing these values. Now, using this value, you can change the size of the branches relative to their parent. And in the absolute value, you can change them in absolute terms. As you move forward, you're going to be using both of them or just one of them, depending on your requirements. Now, the start angle is the starting angle that the child is making with the parent, and it can really change the angle at which the branches are coming out or the leaves are coming out. And you can also change the gravity value by changing how the branches are either moving against the gravity or towards the gravity. And now if you select the node mode, we can individually change these nodes. So if you just drag this node around and we can just rotate it, we can change the position, the gravity individually, and the position on the tree, on the parent, on the trunk. It's a really powerful tool. You can even change the gravity, the length, and even the details on the nodes. I'm going to fast forward this part as you can change the tree according to your own requirements. Now I've changed the number of the branches and also the generation mode to interval, as I wanted these branches at an interval. Now, I'm making these smaller changes to these nodes, trying to make the tree as real and as full as possible. Now in the skin tab, we can change the radius in absolute terms, but what if you want to change the radius on a certain part of the trunk? Now that's where the profile comes in. Now the profile is usually shown by these blue graphs all over these properties. Now if you click that blue graph right next to the radius, if you change the right side, it changes on the top and the left side changes at the bottom. That's basically how every graph works in SpeedTree. Now these graphs are just curves, so you can make them linear curves, inverted U's, whichever you want. Now you can see that the trunk has these open ends which look really horrible, so we can fix this by right clicking on the trunk and adding a cap. It basically fills up these holes. So yeah. And as you can see, I'm just trying different values for gravity and other values to see how it looks. And now using all these properties, I'm just going to fast forward it towards the end. Alright, so now we're going to right click the branch node and we're going to add a branch. As you can see, we have these branches. Now we're going to change the generation properties to proportional so that they are generated in proportion of the larger branches. And now we can just increase the number of branches and we have a really nice looking structure for the tree. Now if we go into the skin tab, we can change the sizes of these smaller branches in relation of the larger branches. Now I'm just going back into the gen properties and seeing if changing some values can improve the look of the tree. Here I'm changing the first values to decide where the branches start from. Now we can also search for properties. After clicking on the branches, I'm just going to search for a property named gravity. And now I can change it and it changes according to the value set. Pretty cool. So So you have to be a bit careful with the values and the properties, because sometimes those values can cause some issues in your nodes. Like over here, it says the weld has failed, like the welding of the parts with the rest of the tree has failed because of one specific property. So if you change the value of that specific property which is shown in the error goes away. So you have to be a bit careful with it. Now after this, we're going to select this next branch and we're going to right click and add another small little branches as well. Right click, little branches. Perfect. Now we're going to change the frequency, change the first and the last positions to make it as realistic as possible. Now I think this is it for the first part, and in the next one we're going to add some leaves, we're going to have some materials, and it's going to be really nice. So see you there.